Welcome back to another episode of Charge Collective, the number one ranked podcast in the world by both my mum and my nan. And this is a podcast that is here to help you become a better version of yourself through teaching health, wealth, and happiness. At the moment, we've got two podcasts that are under this channel. So I've got our Tuesday podcast, so we jump on here and it's normally just a solo episode by myself that goes for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we've also got our Friday recap episodes that both me and Dr. Jimmy Asler jump on here and just have a good chat. So that's the dentist and the doer. And that's really just breaking down our weeks, what we're trying to do, and just helps us keep accountable, but also gives you guys some little tips and tricks along the way that we're doing with our lives. So without any further ado, today's podcast is on the short game versus the long game and how to master them both. And this really got me thinking. I'm reading a book at the moment called The Bitcoin Standard. And in there, they talk about how people are very either short-term minded or long-term minded when it comes to money. And it really got me thinking that we're probably all either in one of those buckets in all of our life, whether it's health, wealth, or happiness. We're either looking for that short-term or we're too focused on the long-term. So I wanted to really break that down and just be like, this is what a short-term game is for you. This is what a long-term game is for you. And this is how you can combine them both together and live the best version of your life. So when we're looking at a short-term gain, it's something that's done over the week or to like either today or the week. It's like you're putting out those little fires in your life. It might be like going to work, any emergencies that pop up, and just like maybe even those little feel-good bad habits that you do. Like might be drinking, partying, whatever it is, something that's like a real quick burst of like excitement, but it's that short game, like short game. It's not any big term fix for you. Sorry, I muddled that up a bit. But then we've got like, the beauty of that is you also get really fast feedback. You know whether you've done something good or bad pretty much straight away. Like even if you've went out there and you've done something really bad, you know, so you get that really fast feedback. And then we've got our long-term gain. So that's like future you in years to come. And it's all about thinking in the future, how can you become better and happier in that sort of way. So when you look at those sort of goals, I really like picture this as like healthier you, a wealthier you, like relationships, and then like things that mean a lot to you. And that's like a really long-term purpose. But the thing is, when you get stuck in that, you're always thinking about the future. So there's definitely good and bads from both of those. And today we're going to break into them and really just find out how you can optimize your life through living the short-term game and the long-term game. So the traps with both of them is with your short term, there's really high possibility that you're going to get burnout or you're always chasing those shiny objects. So if you're just trying to do something really quick all the time, it's just, you're not really planning for the future. So even when people get really successful at business, they might like be in that hustle mindset of like working 60, 70 hours a week, and they're like just all in on it. So that's their short-term focus, and they just like, they never plan for their years to come. So they're always in that short-term thing, and it's like week after week after week, and they always get burnt out. And then it's also that shiny object. So some people, when they're short-term focused, they're always looking for the next best thing. And although I have been very guilty of this, I know last year I got caught up in like trying to do Amazon, trying to do any e-commerce stuff, trying to just learn lots of like commercial property, residential property, went back on the tools. I just got pulled in every direction. So for me, that was like really short-term focused rather than looking at my big goal in life. So that's those shiny objects that pull us from day to day, week to week, that just really keep us not on the path. But then the trap of really looking long term is over planning. So you never pull the trigger on anything. So you're always thinking about, okay, how if I can do this way, I want to try and make it perfect before I even let anyone know. And you just are going to beat yourself down about it for 6 to 12 months. And you're not even going to pull the trigger on it eventually, because you'll give yourself so many reasons not to do it, rather than just getting in there and actually starting it and learning about that, what to do it. So that's where we're going to try and learn how to mix our short-term and our long-term gains both together. So when we're using them together, the best thing that you can do is get clear on your long-term goals. And what do they look like for you? I know all of us have different goals, so I'm not going to push my goals onto you, and you're not going to push your goals onto me. But like a little example of this is, let's just say someone wants to run a marathon, and it's very big, long-term goal. Yep, okay, how do I get there? And now you've got to start looking back at short-term fixes, like short-term goals for you. So that short game might be like, okay, I don't really run at all, so I might run 2 or 3 times a week. And when you start doing that, and then once you start building up, and because you've got that long-term goal in your head already, you're already like, okay, so I'm doing 2 to 3 runs a week. When do I want to start bumping it up to 4? When do I even want to get a coach? Like, you've already got that long-term goal in your head. And now you've also paired that with that short game as well. So you've got the best of both worlds there. So that's really how we can use both our long and our short-term goals together. And then I want to like break down some things as well about how you're going to think about the long term and bring it back to the short term as well. So will future me be proud of who I am today? This is one thing that I've really started to come back to the last couple of weeks. And it works for everyone because we all have our own different ideal life. And if you haven't thought of your ideal life, I certainly recommend you to start, just like have a think of like, what does 5 to 10 years down the track look like for you? Or even when you're like 70 or 80, like what does that look for you? Because when you start, like when you're sitting there, would I look back on today and be proud of the day that I lived? And that's one thing that I always start coming back to. It's like, oh, would I have like, what differently would I have done today if I had known, looking back in hindsight? So that's one thing that's really powerful by linking both the long and the short term back together. And then like when you're doing these long-term goals, when stuff works for you, learn how to automate those. So you might have like goals that are money, fitness, or any activities. So with your monies, learn how to automate those goals. So if you're starting saving well and you got that short-term goal and you start saving $50 a week, that's good. Like start automating that. So it just comes straight out of your pay that comes in week after week. Any fitness, like automate, like, okay, I enjoy actually doing training on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So I'm going to automate that and make sure I'm always doing in the gym on a Tuesday and a Thursday morning. Make that work for you. And then any activities around that, like you've still got to want to live your life. So you want to be happier version of yourself. So what activities bring you happiness? So on a Saturday, it might be you going out to the park and running around, or you've got a meetup that goes always on a Sunday morning. Like book those in and then always work your life around those activities that really are going to help you in the long term. So that's a really good one. Automate that. And then the next, like coming off that as well, is like build your ideal environment. If you want to get off your phone more, put your phone in a different room. If you want to like eat healthier, try and put like healthy food at the front of like where all your food is. Or even better, don't buy rubbish food when you go to shopping, because like I know it's so easy to just eat rubbish food, but if you don't actually buy that when you go shopping, then you can't get it. Like you've actually got to go out of your way to the shops and get it, and then it's just like it's another lever that sort of gets put in you. So it's a wall that blocks you from getting that. And then like setting up of your gym, like do you want to go here? Like it's all about living that ideal life for you. And like a little example is I heard I think it was Dory, the CEO, when he talked about his podcast studio. And he was like, oh, I don't really like doing... He's like, I'd never pack up my podcast. He's like, always just like leave it out on the kitchen bench. And he's like, because if I ever have an idea that I want to go and do a reel or do something like this, he's like, all I know is I just got to hit one button and it turns everything on. And there's no friction for me to start doing that. Whereas like if he had to put that whole podcast studio away, like packed up all his mics and everything, then it's like that extra degree of difficulty. So think about little bits and pieces in your life that can make your life go more smooth. And then these are just some fast examples of how daily habits can turn into a long growth for you. And it's all through that compounding effect. So one really simple one, and these are all very simple, but it's just like really breaking it down. So a daily 10-minute walk turns into 3,640 minutes of walking a year. So I think I got that right. Yep. Yeah, 3,640 minutes of walking a year. So that's just like a healthy one. Like that's so surprising that just 10 minutes a day works into like nearly 60 hours of walking for the year. That's crazy. And then investing. So if you can like invest $50 a week and then try and find areas where you can compound that at 9%, that $50 a week then turns into $9,000 after 3 years. And that's like, it's so short term thinking about, okay, all I've got to do is save $50 this week. But then 3 years time, you built that up to $9,000, which is like that long-term view of where that goes. And then another one is like building on skills. So your skill can end up being whatever it wants to be for you. For me at the moment, one of my skills that I'm trying to improve is reading. So it's like, I like to read 10 pages a day, and then that turns into 3,650 pages a day. And that can turn into probably, I don't know, nearly 20 books for the year, maybe 15 to 20 books for the year. And it's just crazy. Like, I always used to tell myself I'm not a reader. And now that I just accept the fact that I'm reading 10 pages a day, I looked at all these books that I've got behind me, and I've read every single one of them now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's so crazy for me. If you had to put those books in front of me and said, oh, you're going to read all these books, that would have been too scary for me. But just going 10 pages a day is actionable tasks that you can do day in, day out. So start picking your long-term goals and give yourself short-term views that will help you hit them. This is the best way to do it. So really get clear on those goals that you want, and then just try and bring it back to where you are now. Like, it's all good to dream big, but just be like, okay, if I've got these big goals, how do I slowly work at that day in, day out to compound that effect where I want to get to that? And just remember, short game gets you on the start line, the long game gets you the win. I hope that helps, guys. I have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the podcast.